right, guys, welcome back to Of Stone and Clay. This is episode 126. Today we have Joseph Moore, our dearest and our beloved. He's excited to be here.
I am.
And in case you thought, oh, I bet they're recording at a normal, decent hour, we're not.
No.
We're not. It's 10:30 p.m., which honestly is pretty normal and decent for me. But I'm happy to have you here, man.
It's good to be here.
Yeah, we've been hanging out with a few friends for a couple hours, but like I was telling you, there's always this awkward pre-interview stage where you want to be like, oh, well, bro, what about this? And you're like, I actually want to ask on the podcast.
Oh.
But yeah, thanks so much for coming out. I want to ask a little bit about, obviously, you're a singer, a producer, a filmmaker. You're in the band King Will Come.
Uh-huh.
You have your fingers in a lot of pies.
Right.
What do you feel like when you think about yourself, you identify with the most? Is it like, oh, I'm Joseph, I'm a singer, I'm a performer, I'm a film guy? What do you feel?
I would say, like, first and foremost, I'm glad to be here.
Yeah.
It's fun to finally sit down with you in this context. But the first thing that comes to my mind is a singer, because I think that's what, growing up, that's what I would always tell people.
Yeah.
But the more that I like dive into it, what it really is I actually just love collaboration, and I love telling stories.
Yeah.
And I read this book a few years ago that just talked about how the most effective way of teaching is through storytelling. So I think that there's something about the way that we connect that really just fascinates me. So I think that's why I have maybe too many, what do you call it?
Fingers
in
the
pie. But I would say my first and foremost, the thing that just I think about is I love to sing.
Yeah.
But overall, just like telling stories in my own way. And anyway, still working on perfecting that and getting to where I feel like it's authentically, totally me. But that's the process of, I think, as a creator, you just,
of course,
you're constantly kind of figuring out, because your life changes. You're just constantly figuring out kind of where to go next and all that. So
I remember my very first time. We probably didn't even meet, but my first time seeing you, I was at a King Will Come show.
Huh.
Yeah, and I remember, Spencer, who's in the band, is one of my best friends and my roommate. And
I love Spencer.
After the show, I was just like, dude, who's the dude with the pipes? That was all I said. I didn't know Tommy at the time. Tommy is my producer and your brother.
Right.
And he had done some videography and was associated with the band because of you. And But yeah, I was just like, who's this guy with these freaking pipes, dude?
Oh, thanks, bro.
Yeah, dude. It's when did you, like, I'm sure you have a musical family.
Yeah.
But when were you like, I honestly have a gift, like I can really belt out and really sing well? Because you're a vocal coach as well, right?
Well, I taught for 10 years, but I stopped teaching earlier this year because of a job that I took on that also involves music. Man, that's a great question. I'll tell you the earliest memory of music, and that was literally, I counted like a huge blessing that I can remember this, because I was literally like an infant, and I remember being in this room filled with blue walls, and my mom just rocking me in her arms, and I remember her she used to have this long brown hair, and I just remember like hitting her hair but she was singing this beautiful hymn called "My Heavenly Father Loves Me," and I remember it like vividly. I wrote a poem about it when I was in high school, called "Child in a Cloud." I don't remember how it goes.
Yeah.
I have it written down somewhere, but I just remember very vividly her singing and just that being the first moment that I remember music and my mother's voice. and I was an infant. And so that's the first time that I fell in love with music. Was that moment, and it was kind of like a touch from heaven.
Yeah, it's crazy to have a memory of that.
Yeah, that's why it's weird to me to think that, because you don't usually remember anything from. And then the other one I remember standing in the fridge, but that was that has nothing to do with music. But no, just these little memories that you think about. But the first time, one of the first moments that I remember realizing that I would say something flowed through me, as opposed to it just being like a performance that I did.
Yeah.
I sang in church, and I just remember being up, and I can't remember the song. I just remember feeling God's presence kind of fall upon me as I was singing, and so overwhelming that I had to stop. I started just like literally just weeping.
Oh, wow.
In front of this audience. And I was probably 14 or 15, but I've always been somewhat of a perfectionist and somebody that hates messing up in front of people. If you were to ask me like 2 weeks before, do you know that you're going to weep while you're singing in front of a huge audience? How do you feel about that? I'd say, I'm not going to do it.
Right.
Like just the fear of that. But it was undeniable, the feeling that passed through me, and the things that I was singing about were so important to me, and what I felt about those things, that it just was undeniable that I couldn't hold it in. It was just it was like flooding through me, and I just had to let it through, and it was just overflowing. And so I sounded horrible, but I remember the feeling, and I thought, this is what I want to feel all the time.
Yeah.
So if I can master not crying when I feel that,
right.
which it's hard to do sometimes, but if I can technically learn what I can in order for this to flow through me with ease, then I think I'll be in a good spot. But it's hard for me not to cry or get emotional when such powerful music is flowing through, whether it's the piano part that's accompanying me, or whether I'm singing in a choir or with King Will Come. There's moments where I can't speak because it's so powerful, especially like some of the members in the group. Sometimes I just can't hold it in, It's incredible.
Yeah.
So anyway.
What do you think it is about music that can sometimes really affect children so deeply? Like, I feel like music is one of those things where you oftentimes see these prodigies, right?
Yeah.
Whereas you don't see like an 11-year-old making films.
Yeah.
You don't see an 11-year-old writing like a novel, but there's something about music that sometimes hits them really, really young, and they have such an like immediate acuity for it. What do you think? What do you think that is?
I think depending on how it's used, because I am a firm believer that music can be used in several different ways, and I do think that sometimes there's kind of a different kind of feeling to it that doesn't feel so good, depending on the genre or depending on the intention that the singer has. But I think the reason why it comes so easily for children is because they are so like pure in heart, and I think that they just when a child feels it, you can. I mean, I've witnessed children when you play this other kind of music that it's almost scary in nature, or whatever, right? It's almost like they have recoil. This physical reaction, right? Yeah. And then you have other times where, there's that clip of a child listening to Whitney Houston. He's like probably the same age that I was when I remember my mom singing to me, but and I think his mom says something, she calls his name, and he looks over and he's just tearing up like an adult.
Yeah.
Like, first of all, I love Whitney Houston, so I can identify. but to be able to, I think it's just so close to heaven. I think that my personal belief is that there's something about music that's almost a secret language that I believe God uses to get to hearts that otherwise you wouldn't be able to get to.
Yeah.
And I've witnessed that time and time again, in different ways. Some that are almost like too special to me to even share, because whether it's been me or witnessing somebody else. But yeah, there's just something that is intrinsically, it's almost like woven into it, where I believe God's like, hey, I'm going to use this as a tool to get through to the hardest heart out there, or the person that is just so stone cold about everything, emotions, and somehow it's able to break through.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's crazy. To me, I super understand, lyrics get me a lot of times.
Yeah, me too.
I'm a big lyric guy, and partially because I love the other elements, but I don't really understand what's going on.
Right.
Compositionally, I'm just like, sounds good.
Yeah.
And I'm friends with a lot of musicians, and I'll sometimes ask questions. And I'm like, okay, whatever. But to me, it's so curious that like just chords on a piano could make me weep.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I don't know what. They're not saying anything, right?
Yeah.
So I don't even know what message is trying to be portrayed necessarily, but for some reason it's touching me.
Yeah.
And so that's a cool point you made.
Yeah. When I was, it reminds me of when I was in, I did my undergrad at BYU Hawaii in classical music, so vocal performance. I got to be careful, because if I really wanted to, I could learn music theory better, but that was always the struggle for me. Is I always felt it. But theory just always was like this faraway mathematical thing that just didn't. I couldn't compute it in my brain, but I could feel it, and I could go, okay, I feel something shift there, but I don't know exactly what it is. And then somebody explains it to me, and I'm like, it still is over my head.
Yeah,
with me, but something that it just reminded me of, like, I was in class, like, deconstructing this Mahler symphony. And we went through, and there's no lyrics to it, but our teacher went through and he said, what do you think that the composer was feeling? This was a music theory class, one of my favorite classes ever. But he said, what do you think he was feeling when he felt this? And we just, in this room, just had this discussion with all these musicians about what he may have been feeling. And then he talked about, the different patterns in music and the way that he constructed it, and how at the beginning it starts in a place and then it ends in that same chordal structure, and how there's so many cool elements that remind us of life, right? There's a beginning and there's an end, but usually we return back to the place that we started.
Yeah.
And that's also a filmmaking thing too. If you somebody pointed out to me that usually we always return back home, and so most films, if you pay attention, like, not you, but I didn't know this when I was. Somebody explained to me, they said, if you notice, usually at the beginning, the first shot of a film is either the same place, location, emotion at the beginning or at the end than it is in the beginning. There's this thing about coming back home that we all just gravitate towards.
Yeah,
we go on this journey and then we go back home. Anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of times it's like really subtle foreshadowing or.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you know that as a writer, and I mean, the greatest books, that's how it is too. The greatest stories. So anyway.
Yeah. One of my favorite books, it ends in the middle of a sentence.
What book is that?
It's called Infinite Jest.
Infinite Jest.
It's a big, sprawling, complicated novel, but it's supposed to it's supposed to be sort of cyclical in nature. So at the very last page, then it starts at the beginning, and so it ends mid-sentence, and the beginning starts sort of. It's cool. Just all connected. Yeah. But
that takes so much foresight and planning.
Yeah, it's insane. Tell me a little bit about how you got into film and stuff. I know you went to the London Film School.
I did. So I did an international film business program, kind of similar. Like when I was 14, 15 years old, I just always grew up loving films, and you know, didn't know that there was something out there where you would put together a team of actors and directors, but I did it when I was little. Like I would just lay on the ground in my room, and I'd come up with some idea for a story, and then I'd be like, okay, who could play the lead? And I'd be like, okay, maybe, Denzel Washington. I love Denzel Washington. So I was like, Denzel Washington would be the lead, and this would be his wife, and this is how, here are the kids. And I'd put together these, but it wasn't so much like I didn't like flesh out the story. It was, I wanted to put the pieces together.
Yeah.
I grew up loving puzzles too. There's just something about finding things and putting them together that I love. And so, I would, and then I'd be like, Steven Spielberg could direct it. I mean, at that time I didn't know a ton of directors, and then I was like, and then this person could do the music. And I would do that all the time growing up. And then at a certain point I was telling somebody that, and they're like, oh, you mean like a producer? I was like, oh yeah, that's exactly right. And then as I started just seeing more and more films, I was like, what are the kinds of films, what would I make? What are the kinds of films I would make? And so I would just get these ideas. And so I started writing those down. And at some point was like, once I'm, established music career, then I'll get into producing film. But it was like 2021, I had released my first solo album, and then 2 weeks later went to a film and came out of it and was like, man, that was such an incredible film. When do I get to do that? Yeah. And I had this really strong feeling that I needed to go to film school. And I was like, what? I just released a music album. Like, why would I, I'm going to go on a tour, and I've got all these other things. And long story short, about a year later, I applied to London Film School and had always wanted to live in London. So that was nice too. Got accepted so I loved the process of figuring out how to put those pieces together. But for some reason in the film world, as opposed to music, I actually wanted to be the one that brought all those pieces together and just made it happen. And a lot of times in film school, they'd say, what is a producer? And you'd say, it's just the person that makes it happen. And so for me, I think, well, I want to see these stories that have never been told before. I want these groups of people, I want their stories to be told too, that you've never seen. And so how can I make that happen? And so it was just this perfect window where I was able to go for a year and kind of learn how to make that happen. Still have a lot to learn. But anyway.
So what is your sort of film dream? To do documentaries, to just do feature films?
I'd love to do them both. I love, I'm sure everybody says this, but I love the Oscar kind of films. The ones that really get you. Like Lion is one of my all-time favorite films.
Lion's amazing.
I was weeping at the end of that. Like uncontrollable. Kind of.
That last scene is unbelievable.
Oh, it's incredible. So I want to make films like that, but I also just love great comedies that are witty and smart. But I also love documentary. I love them all. I love all kinds of films, but I would say just things that are well constructed. Storytelling is strong. Script, dialogue, visuals. I mean, that's basically what movies are. I'm just describing lighting, all that stuff. So I just, but I have some specific stories that I am currently working on developing, and found out that we got the rights to a film recently that I'm really excited about turning into a full-length feature film. And so, just continuing on that story. I think when you know people's story, I have a couple of friends, we call it the power of proximity. Once you know somebody's stories, you can then kind of come closer and get to know somebody, have compassion for them. And so I want to tell stories that have not, that maybe people don't even know exist. Cultures that maybe a lot of people don't know exist, and help to make those happen. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Going back to music a little bit, I wanted to talk about, it's funny, before we started recording, we had the girls in here that are doing a podcast, and one of them was kind of fangirling over you because of this song. But
oh man,
I was, and I know you love attention, so I'll keep it on you. But I was going through your music, kind of prepping a little bit for the episode, and yeah, that song "Free My Soul" was so incredible.
Oh,
Did you write that, or?
I didn't. That was written by Nick Day, awesome writer, and it just so happened that he and another friend of mine reached out and said, "Hey, we're writing this song. We feel like your voice would fit really well with it." It's a song from the church I go to, and so I was able to record that. And it's funny because when he first sent it to me, you go through this. He has you. They have you like send this audition and so just like on a voice memo.
Yeah.
And then you hope it sounds good as a voice memo, just really raw. Scratch vocal.
Maybe you sneak over to the studio.
Yeah. Sneak over here and record something. But they said, yeah, we'd love to have you sing this song. And it's just a song that I really resonate with because of some of the lyrics that are in there. And I think that it's what I love about it is it's specific enough to be personal, but also specific enough to be universal.
Yeah.
Where you can, anybody that listens to that song can place themselves in the story in the song.
Yeah, I actually wanted to ask you about a couple of lyrics. I know you didn't write them, but I'm sure you get weirdly connected to to the lyrics.
Yeah. There's been some times where I've sung it live where same thing happens. I can't hold it together because it's
perish.
Oh yeah.
I don't know what it is. I've talked about this before, but I am sort of obsessed with the word hope.
Yeah.
I think it's I just think without it I'm completely lost.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And so I love this line, my only hope is to be with you.
Yeah.
What does that make you feel?
Man.
And real quick, one thing I love about this, like you said, it can be so specific and so universal.
Yeah.
I love songs about God because you can even not believe in God and kind of replace it for someone you love.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And
so, these lyrics are about God, but I think you can listen to it during a breakup and be like, my only hope is to be with you.
Oh yeah.
And that, you're just thinking about a girl.
Yeah.
You know?
When I've performed it live, because, I don't expect everybody that comes to shows or that listens to my music to believe the same things I do.
Sure.
And so whenever I've performed it live, I'll say, this is part of my journey and my story about my relationship with God, but whatever it means to you, there's some really good things anybody could, I think, take and apply it in their own relationship or situation. Because I've even thought about how it could translate for somebody that's lost somebody.
Yeah.
And so, but my only hope, I can't remember the lyrics of the song I sing all the time. My only hope is to be with you.
Mm-hmm.
So one of my favorite books is Man's Search for Meaning.
Oh,
Viktor Frankl.
So good.
And he talks about how it's been a long time since I've read it, but he says the thing that got people through, psychologists, but also was in concentration camp in Nazi Germany, and there was something that he had to have hope in.
Mm-hmm.
And he talked about a lot of how important that is. And so for me, the greatest hope in my life is Jesus. And mainly because, well, for a lot of reasons, but because there is no other way to get back to him, talking about home, bring it back around.
Yeah.
I believe we're born into this world. We often talk about how babies come from heaven. Mm-hmm. That is something I believe in.
Yeah.
And to also think about the journey that we go through, and then we get to hopefully return back to him.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, in that journey in the middle, we make some people more than others. But I know for me, speaking of my own experience, I've made horrible mistakes.
Mm-hmm. Not me, but
Yeah. I was going to say, except for you, except for Taylor. But I've made horrible mistakes, and I've done things that I regret, and I've done things that I am not proud of. And so, but my faith tradition teaches me that if I turn to him, that through him, through communing with him, I believe in prayer, I believe in going to him when I'm struggling, all those things, that I can, and it's not just something that I believe in, it is something that I literally have felt.
Yeah.
I have gone through some really difficult challenges that some people know about. Others are just between me and God. And I have turned to him countless times and said, forgive me. I didn't want to do that. I didn't mean to do that. I have turned to him when maybe I said something that I thought, man, I shouldn't have said it that way or whatever. But it is only through him that I have been able to find peace.
Yeah.
When I've made all those mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
That he's able to, because of what he did in dying and then being resurrected again, that we're able to find any kind of hope.
Yeah.
And not only in the big things, but in the smaller things as well. And so, in fact, a recent leader of my church talked about how it's not as important, or God is concerned about the mistakes we make, but not to condemn us. He's more concerned about what happens after. Do we turn to him?
Mm-hmm.
From my experience with him has been one of open arms.
Yeah.
I know not everybody has that experience, but I also think that if that is the case, that maybe there's a re-examining of who he is and what his character is, because he is all loving, all welcoming, and I often say he is everything to me.
Yeah.
And it is through him that I find hope. So when I'm praying on my knees and I'm literally crying out to him and I'm saying, I don't know how to get over this. I don't know how to get through this. Help me.
Yeah.
Usually there is it's not always immediate. Mm-hmm. Sometimes there is a little struggle that I have to go through, but eventually there's kind of this feeling that kind of washes through me. Kind of when I say, same thing happens when when I was talking about that singing, or time in church when I sang, just this rush where I felt, I love you, and just keep trying, keep doing better.
Yeah,
just try to do your best to be better, and I love you, and I'm here, and I'll lift you up, and all those things. So, yeah, that gives me so much hope.
Yeah. How do you hold on to hope when it comes to dating and trying to find the love of your life, you know? Right. Especially when you get a little more protracted in age, and you feel like, I thought this was supposed to happen X amount of years ago, and I just feel like it's really easy for a lot of people to lose hope, and whether it's in God or not, just in general.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
How have you held on to hope when it comes to that?
Man.
And I'm sure it's a wrestle.
Oh, it is.
Yeah,
absolutely. I think, I was just talking to a friend about this last week, actually. I think the older you get, things just kind of start to come into focus, and things that mattered to you don't anymore. And And, you know, I look at my life and I go, oh, okay, here's some things that I could have done differently or whatever. But I think what I'm realizing is, as I get older, is that if I get to the end of my life and have had tons of success and released tons of films and music and made tons of money, what's actually going to matter in the long run? Would I rather have all that, or would I rather have a family, you know, a spouse that I absolutely love, that we were partners through life and in my belief, eternity, and to be able to have that and a family and, you know, for me, that's like the ultimate.
Yeah.
I think that there's parts of your heart that you probably don't tap into until it actually happens. And then I often think about at your funeral, who you know, who's gonna, are people, I've been to a lot of funerals the last 3 or 4 years, of family members, friends, people that I didn't know that I was asked to sing at. And almost every time I sit there and I go, man, they're not even talking about their career. Like, I don't even know. If I was just showing up, I wouldn't even know what they would do, or what they do for a living. But man, they had a lot of people that loved them.
Yeah.
And there's a reason why we celebrate life. And so, to answer your question, how do I hold on to hope? Honestly, with God, huge, just trusting that He has great things in store for me.
Yeah.
That to me is, He has let me know several times, like, yeah, some of these dreams and you know, this vision of a family hasn't quite happened for you yet, but stick close to me, and you know, those blessings will come. And so I you know, it's not a delusional thing. It's literally something that I really do feel that He's spoken to me about, and let me know about. But I think a good practical way of like of holding on to hope is surrounding yourself with really good people.
Yeah.
That are encouraging, people that don't make you feel less than because of your situation.
Yeah.
And you know, people, I mean, I know you've probably experienced the same thing, but you know, ultimately I'm able to kind of step back and go, okay, like they certainly want me to be happy, right?
Yeah.
And
a lot of times it's not delivered in a really,
right,
it doesn't feel like it's delivered in a loving way.
Yeah.
You know?
Totally. But, and the sentiment is always like, I'm always like, that's very nice of you that you're so concerned about, you know, my dating life and everything. But I do appreciate the friends also that kind of call me out on stuff too. In fact, I've had 2 friends in the last couple of months that have been like, well, bro, are you doing this? Are you doing this? And I'm like, no, but you know, so I also appreciate, you know, people that are real, that will just tell you straight up, some things, but also just people that don't make your whole identity that, you know, whether you're married or not, or whether you're dating somebody or not, you know, anywhere along that spectrum. So I think having good people around you is really important, to help you keep going. And I also think, you know, family, making sure you're involved in good things is also really, really important. And I will say, I just said that, and I think that almost denoted, like, if you're not married, that you're not involved in good things, or that the only way you can, you know, is when you're married or dating somebody. But no, there's so much to do in this world, and I think serving other people, I think going out of your way to help people around you is a huge way to kind of help you to have just hope and good things to come. So
yeah. You know what's frustrating for me is, for some reason, it does feel like sometimes being a single person, you're viewed by the coupled people of the world. You're viewed as a little bit less than, right? Yeah. And it feels totally appropriate to always, at any time, at any juncture, to be like, hey, how's dating? Are you single?
Totally.
What's going on?
Yeah.
But would it be just as socially acceptable for me to always ask married people how their marriage is progressing?
That's true.
And if they're
That's a good
still in
point.
love?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
are you guys doing well? Are you struggling? Are you fighting?
Yeah.
You know, has it been tough since the kids?
Right.
You know?
Right.
And the truth is, with my really close homies, I do ask
sure.
questions like
Oh,
that.
sure.
You know?
Yeah, me too.
But yeah, it seems like a weird double standard I don't care for.
Yeah.
You know?
I agree. No, that is a good point. I don't know if I've ever asked or ever thought about that question.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I want to talk to you about loneliness because it's something I've struggled with a lot.
Yeah.
And I think similarly to you, I think we're both people that really, really cherish friendship and seek it and view it as a sacred thing, and have it in abundance, which I'm really grateful for. But there are still times where I feel crippling loneliness, despite being surrounded by people that love me, and despite, you know, seeking those friendships and those relationships and having them. There's still, at the end of the night, I'm going to bed, and sometimes my thoughts go, well, yeah, but it's just you, and everyone's got their stuff, so no one really cares about you.
Oh man.
You know, like, I know deep down my friends will do anything for me, but I don't have that one person that I know is always thinking about me and always, you know, like, I'm no one's number one. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
And maybe my mom will disagree, you know, but she has other kids. Sure. I'm not her number one, and I shouldn't be, you know? And so I think that feeling can be really, really lonely, thinking like, yeah, I don't have anyone, and also I don't know when I will. Yeah.
One morning I woke up. Don't know why my brain works like this, but I woke up, literally sat up, and I was like, I'm going to be 62 in 30 years. And that was a long time ago.
Sure.
But I remember thinking,
not that long, because you're so young.
Oh, I'm so young. I'm so young.
Honestly, look at this face.
I got a baby face.
You're without a single wrinkle.
Oh, that's if you get close.
Right. We won't zoom in.
No, but I've dealt with that a lot and continue to do that. There's sometimes I'll wake up in the middle of the night and I'll think, is this how it's always going to be? You know? And you know, as much as family and friends, you know, I've got great friends and family around me, but I think in the last 4 or 5 years, and I agree with you, I like my friendships, I consider most of my friends like family. You know, especially just really close. And yet, as time goes along, I was just thinking about this yesterday. All of a sudden, people that used to be so close to you are no longer there. Nothing happened. You just one day you're like, man, what happened to Dan? Or what happened to this person or that person? And nothing did. It just like people come in and out.
Yeah.
But we're at the stage in my family where people are starting to have, like my siblings are starting to have their kids getting married, and they're like two of my sisters are grandmas, you know, which is crazy to think about, you know.
When you have an enormous family.
And I do have an enormous family.
How many siblings are 10?
So 10. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, no, 3 of my sisters are grandmas now, which is crazy. We have so many, I lose track.
Do you just refer to them as grandma? When
Yeah. Oh man, if I did that wouldn't be a good idea. But I have had some moments where everybody's just moving, right? There's no harm, but where you're just going, yep, I guess it's just me figuring out, you know, Thanksgiving again, or And I say that knowing that most of my family always invites me to Thanksgiving, or I'll spend it with my parents.
Right.
Which, to be honest with you, that has been a huge blessing. I've been able to spend more time with my parents as an adult than a lot of other people could. And so I've been able to. My parents know more about my adult life, and I've been able to get to know them just in a different season. So that is a silver lining. But it's an interesting thing to kind of go through. And sometimes I've had that same thought of, does anybody think about me ever? I don't know. Maybe they don't. Maybe they do. I don't know.
Right.
And it's not from a victim mentality, but literally just like just the feeling that somebody is your number one and you are their number one.
Yeah.
Is something I really hope to have at some point.
Yeah. I've it's funny. It comes in waves, but there are times where I'll go spend time with like my sister and her kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'll leave their house and just kind of be sad.
Yeah.
Because I'll be like, even though it was so joyous, I'll just be like, man, I don't know when I'll have that,
right.
And there's something, I don't know, there's just something so beautiful about a family when they're together, and you just, you can't really replicate it on your own,
Oh.
And being with my nieces and nephews and stuff, sometimes I'm like, well, I got this uncle thing on lock, but
the favorite unc, man.
But I'm still just going home.
Yeah.
After Christmas.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's tough.
Yeah. That reminded me of oh dang it, I lost my train of thought.
You got it.
I know, we'll cut this out. I hope we cut it out. No, but what was that? What were you just talking about? You were talking about
nieces and nephews, Christmas. Just I have these moments where I will. It's going to sound weird. Maybe I shouldn't say it. No, you should.
We often hear like women say, "I'm baby hungry."
Mm-hmm.
Usually they're married.
Yeah.
But man, being a dad to me is like I just look forward to that day. That's what I was going to say. Just the times when you see your siblings play with their kids is like so cool to see, and man, this must not be something I should share because I keep going towards it and then nothing comes. Anyway, we'll cut this out. Sorry, I'm making this more difficult for you guys.
No, you're good.
No, there's something about playing with kids, family.
You got a bad brain.
I do. Let's move on.
No, you're good.
It'll come back to me. But I guess this is what happens in normal conversations with me. I forget things all the time. No, but I do very much relate to the idea that, or just the want for family.
Yeah.
And being able to play with your kids and it just came back to me. So often I hear people just talking about how stressful being married or complaining about certain things. And there's real challenges.
Sure.
I'm not going to, I know several friends who really have difficult marriages and all those things. But a lot of times I hear people complaining about things that I'm like, man,
I'd kill to be
sign me up.
Yeah.
Like I know, like, I often say, like, I'll see parents getting angry with their kids about the things that they're doing, and they're like so cute.
Yeah.
These kids are doing the cutest things, and they'll get mad at them, and they're like, you'll understand when you have kids, and I'm sure that'll happen at some point. But I'm also like, I think because of the perspective that I've had up to this point, I'm like, I don't know if I would actually take that for granted when that happens. I'm going to laugh at my kids about most things just because I think it's hilarious. And, you got to teach them good manners and stuff like that. But or just the things that I look forward to in a spouse, like when I get married, and there are just things that I'm like, I can't wait to get to a Friday night, and I'm so tired from working so hard, and my wife is so tired from working so hard, and to just be like, can we just like sit on the couch and do nothing?
Yeah.
And either watch a movie or, I don't know, just get in your PJs and just like chill and talk or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, that stuff happens when you're dating people too, but there's something about, kind of going back to what you're saying about the one person that is like your number one, to be able to sit on the couch and, or get to the end of the day and say, there's somebody that is waiting for me to say, hey, what are we doing this weekend?
Yeah.
And them to reach out and say, hey, what are we doing this weekend? I've recently realized that I do that with my friends, but like, I'm like, come on guys, let's, I'll try to plan these things. And forget that most of my friends are single, and so they're off doing their own things, and occasionally we'll do group things together. But I find myself wanting to plan the way that a father and a husband would plan.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, yeah, maybe we get this big group of people together and we can do this, this kind of devotional thing before this thing. And people are like, what are you doing? Like, what? I'm like, I don't know. This is what I want to do with my family.
They're like, you're such a dad.
You're such a dad. Like, no, for real though. I'm like,
guys, we need to barbecue.
Yeah, I don't know how to do that, but I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
But there's just things
guys, let's mow some lawns.
Yeah. No, I love mowing lawns.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
But I've also realized that there's something instinctive. I want to protect. I want to take care. I want to.
You have paternal instincts.
I have paternal instincts. I want to take care of a family, and it's just. And so I think you kind of go out and you try to find things that will compare to that, and it just it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And so I going back to the idea that I guess I have parents or people come up who are married and say, "Oh man, I wish I had your life.
Yeah,
you can go and do whatever you want anytime you want." And yes, there are definitely some perks to that, and that's also kind of assuming that you don't have anything going on,
sure,
which is a whole other conversation.
Yeah,
that I also have to remind people that no, like single people are very much engaged in the world and have work and lives and stuff.
Right.
But
you know what I tell people?
What's that?
When they say that? Because I've traveled a ton.
Oh, yeah.
I've done a lot of things. Yeah. I think as a single person, what you have is you have extra bandwidth.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Totally.
And people fill it in different ways. But I tell people, like, if you're jealous of me, like I've had my fun. I'm good.
Oh yeah.
Like I've traveled enough. I've done everything, and of course I'm gonna try to view it positively, and I'm gonna try to, take advantage of being single, and travel and do things. But yeah, I've done it all.
Yeah,
I'm good.
But what's funny about that too is, I've done all that as a single person.
Mm-hmm.
I just had this thought, like, I can't wait to be able to travel to Hawaii with my son or daughter.
Yeah.
As soon as possible, so that they can. I remember, crazy enough, going to Hawaii as like a little toddler, and with my family, and my dad taking me in the water for the first time, and I just had this thought of, you got to travel on a flight for however many hours, and they might be screaming at the top of their lungs, and you might upset everybody on the plane, but then when you get on that beach and they're in their diaper and they take that first step in the ocean.
Yeah.
I did not expect to get emotional about that.
Yeah.
But to witness that of your own child.
Yeah.
Like feeling the touch of the ocean for the first time. Man, that makes all that time worth it. Or all that like screaming on the plane and dirty diapers and all that stuff. And I'm not even a parent yet, but I look forward to that. That is going to be, just the best, you
Yeah.
know. So I think, you know, on both sides, you've got to. This is something I'm really trying to be, is just present where you are and being appreciative of where you are. Because I also think, I just went completely different directions on this, but I also think that as a single person, you can't stop moving.
Yeah.
You got to keep engaging in the world, and the same thing as a married person too. Like, you've just got to keep finding things you're interested in. I mean, it goes both ways. There's so much benefit on both sides, and things to appreciate. And so, I did not mean to get that emotional about that.
No.
Apparently, that I've never even thought about that.
Yeah.
But just thinking about that, like
Yeah.
that specific moment with one of my children is, man,
Yeah.
it's going to be awesome.
Yeah. I mean, I have those moments every once in a while with a niece or nephew where they'll do something that's so cute and so, like, I remember I was at my sister's house the other day, and my brother-in-law, who's a freaking G, he was telling me about their son is 4, and he's like, yeah, I realized the other day we were out of town, we were on for spring break, and he's like, I realized he had never been on a bus.
Oh, man.
And so he was just excited about all the windows, and I was just like, dude, to have the opportunity to do everything for the first time with your kid.
Yeah.
And I do think it's really beautiful for people that really struggle to find their person, and it takes a while. I think it's really beautiful because I do think they won't take it for granted.
Oh yeah.
And it's funny. I'm in the middle of this novel right now, and I'm in the trenches.
Right.
And I'm writing about an individual that is reflecting on a past love. And he said, it's funny, the waters get murky. It's like, did I say that, or did the character? It's all the same thing. But the character said that he would do anything to go back and just take out the trash for his wife.
Wow. Yeah.
And it made me think about, like, we take advantage of relationships so much, because once they're there, it just becomes your normal life.
Yeah.
It becomes what you're used to.
Yeah.
And as humans, we acclimate so quick. But I don't ever want to do that with any relationship.
Right.
Certainly not my wife and kids. But even now, like you said, as a single person, you have to still move forward. I don't want to take advantage of any of my relationships.
Right.
You know, I want to be, and it's hard, but I want to be so present that when I'm in a moment, I recognize it.
Yeah.
And even if it's really small, we're just hanging out, having fun, I want to be like, man, it may never be as special as it is tonight.
Yeah.
You know, and we might be close for the rest of our lives, but the dynamic might be different, you know, because you'll get married and I'll get married and this friend won't be there anymore, and just things change all the time.
Yeah.
So anytime you're with people, it's actually a really unique, special night.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm sure you've seen those like memes or whatever that say, you know, these are the times that you will look back on and say, oh, I miss those days.
Yeah.
But sometimes in the moment, I find myself going, oh man, it's going to be so great when this happens or whatever.
Yeah.
And so, I'm trying to get in that mode where I'm present with the people that I'm present with. Because they can feel it too. But yeah, that's something that I haven't always been the best at. So I'm trying to get to that place. But
you know what I like to do that I think helps?
Yeah.
I like to sometimes, especially with like a small group, I like to be like, hey guys, can we talk about how fun tonight was?
Oh yeah.
You know, or can we recognize that we could be anywhere else in the world right now, and we chose to be together, and maybe we just went out to a movie and got dinner, but it's like, it's special. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, that just made me think of two of my buddies that you know very well, that are my roommates. And I don't know where along the lines I've been roommates with one of them for a long time, and another one for a couple of years now, and some of the best guys, you know. And when we first started being roommates, I would just notice like funny things that they would do, and I'd start like taking videos because they were just hilarious.
Yeah.
And then in recent years, they've started doing the same thing with me and with each other, and they're just like stupid stuff that you would never do in front of anybody else.
Right.
But like goofy dancing, or like starting to sing in the middle of whatever, and you know, the sides of people that you don't always see on the day to day. But I probably have hundreds of these little videos that I can go back to. So thankfully, you know, thank goodness for technology. But I guess in a way that's kind of capturing the moment. But I think that's a good way of thinking about it. Almost like calling out.
Yeah, just articulating
right there.
Yeah.
Saying this is amazing. I don't think we'll ever be in this. I mean, you won't be in that moment again, but it's incredible.
Yeah.
I love it.
It's funny just thinking about like the weird things our friends do. That I have a buddy that whenever he gets tired, he starts like cracking his knuckles like this.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, dude, why are you doing that when you're? But I've known him since he was 14.
Oh yeah,
you know, it's just something he does.
Do I know this guy?
No.
Okay.
But he's a kid I went to high school with, and it's just so funny. We'll be hanging out as old friends, and I'll just be like, "Oh, Ryan's tired."
Yeah.
And he's like,
awesome.
"What?" And I'm like, "Bro, you're doing the thing."
Yeah. Well, I think I guess that's the beauty of relationships is you get, and being in those moments is you get to, you know so well what they're going to do in certain moments,
and all their crap becomes endearing.
Yeah.
You know, like if you first meet someone, you might be like, "That's kind of a weird thing he does."
Yeah.
But when you start to like love that person, you're like, dude, I love how weird he is.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And then when other people notice, they start to love the things that are weird about people too.
Yeah.
That's the best.
Oh yeah.
And you start telling people about these weird anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. I wish a lot of times on like first dates, I could be like, will you show me some weirdness? You know?
Just right out the gate.
Yeah. Can I see something that only like your closest people know about you that is actually probably really endearing? You know?
I have a question. Do you, when you're on a first date, do you feel like you have like a shield up in a way on the first date, or are you able to kind of say, I'm coming in kind of as I am?
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's tough. I feel really comfortable and I'm happy to be vulnerable on a first date. So I do feel like I don't have much of a shield. But dating, you're doing a lot of shape shifting.
Yeah.
Because some girls are going to want some vulnerability and maybe they're being vulnerable themselves. And some people might kind of spook and they're not ready and they're going through their own stuff.
Yeah.
And so I think dating is about reading the room, you know? But this is what I always say about vulnerability. I will happily share almost anything with almost anybody if I feel like their interest is in earnest.
Right.
You know?
Right.
If I can tell that they genuinely want to know something because they want to connect, not just because they like want to hear the dirty deets.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Because there's a difference. Like, I could come up to you and be like, Joseph, tell me when you felt the loneliest in your life.
Sure.
But instead, it's like, no, we've connected enough that I feel like I can ask you that question, and you hopefully know that it's in earnest.
Oh yeah.
You know.
Yeah. You definitely are genuinely curious. I mean, that's why you do it.
Yeah.
That's why you have this.
Yeah. And so, I try. Here's the thing. I think vulnerability is really, really attractive.
Yeah.
You know, for both sexes. And so I think if you can display it in a way that is authentic, I think it can really help you. It can help your case.
Oh, yeah.
But there is also you can be inauthentically vulnerable and just be like,
totally.
I'm going to share this crazy thing so someone like feels bad for me, you know?
Yeah.
But that's just kind of manipulative.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah.
How are you on a first date?
Well, I've been analyzing a lot, because I think, I mean,
this is kind of our first.
yeah.
There's no dinner, but
oh yeah, but it's interesting because I tend to. I feel like when I can be really like one-on-one is like I love one-on-one. I love that vulnerability. But if I feel like there's like if I'm going on a first date, there's kind of this like
some posturing,
yeah. And I try not to. In fact, the older I've gotten, I've tried to take, kind of get away from that, because at the end of the day, if somebody doesn't want to go on a second date with me, I want them to know, because like they really saw me.
Yeah.
And that's the control that I have. But it's also like I want to be as authentically myself as I can be. Even though I do feel like, I don't think most anybody on a first date, well, that's not true, spills everything that they've got, right? I don't think that is probably, you don't want to say this is everything you need to know about me.
Right. And also I love you.
Because that might, on a first date, kind of, if somebody's not ready for that, they're not going to. But I do think that, it's something that I feel like even in this podcast, if I can be so like breaking the fourth wall, there's this feeling of like, oh, I've got to answer the questions, even though, there's this one of the most vulnerable, open people here. I'm going, oh, I've got to like, I don't know. And maybe it's because I'm a performer.
Right.
I sing when I get home. I mean, I was telling you beforehand before we came, I started doing some lip drills, because when I sing, when I go on stage, I'll start doing that. But I don't think it's as extreme as like a shield that really does. But I definitely do think that it takes a minute for me to really be vulnerable, like to the place where I'm
comfy,
comfy, and where I feel like I can really trust somebody with my feelings.
Do you feel like every once in a while you meet a girl that you can get there really quick?
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah, and where it's like you just talk the whole time. There's no. And not just talk, but talk about really important things. You just dive in to the point where, and this isn't necessarily an important thing, but I remember a girl I dated several years ago. She, it was actually long distance. I met her at a show that I was playing at, and she was just in town for a couple of days. And so met her that night, had a great time. It was like automatic connection. We were laughing, flirtatious, all those things. And then I just called her. Like, there was like no doubt in my mind. I just wanted to talk to her.
Yeah.
And it was one of the first times that I just genuinely had this connection. And but through a series of different situations, after maybe a month or so, realized that it, funny enough, was so vulnerable. We both shared, deepest aspects of our heart, but it got to this point where it was like, unfortunately, it's not the right fit. But I think that that's so important, and I've started to say that because I don't know. I always think about people's. I heard this quote sometime that was like, never let somebody's name feel like. Always have. I'm going to butcher this, but make sure that people's names and who they are is always safe on your lips. So like not meaning like if I take somebody out, maybe it wasn't a great date, or maybe there was something horrible that happened. They're still a human being. There's you never know what they've been through. And obviously there's certain times where you do need to express to friends or family members some things that happened, or, about maybe why it didn't work out. But essentially it's like, it just wasn't the right fit.
Right.
She saw me and I saw her, and it just wasn't the right situation to move forward. And that really bummed me out, because especially with this particular girl because it was the first time where I was like, I see a future. I'm going to go visit her in a month, and but anyway. So
you're not deflecting, are you?
No, not at all. No. Just what was the question?
I don't know what the question was. We were just talking, but yeah. What
about vulnerability?
Yeah, but okay. Slightly different question, but connected to this. What? How do you deal with heartbreak?
Man. That's a good question. I've never been asked that before. That's an interesting thing to think about.
I mean, I think we can all admit there's good ways to deal with it, and there's bad ways, and everything in between. But maybe from experiencing more than one heartbreak, what have you learned and been able to be like, well, as hellacious as it is, I know I need to do this when I'm going through it, or I know that I'm just going to be underwater for a while.
Yeah. It's funny because I do like to keep myself busy. I do think that there's a healthy amount of, and I say busy, what I mean is involved in good things.
Yeah.
That doesn't, get not like I'm avoiding.
Sure, but you got your pies all over town.
Totally. So for me, I think that there's some natural inclinations that I go to, whether it's isolate, which is never good. I shouldn't say never good. I do a lot of processing. I think it's good to take time to yourself to reflect. But I also know that if you get too far down there, you can get lost a little bit.
Yeah.
There's been moments like that where I've had to just be like, bro, you got to get out.
You start digging yourself a hole.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Because you can think about all the things you did, or all the things that you wish that they did better, or whatever it might have been in a relationship, or
you start obsessing about hypotheticals.
Oh yeah. And especially when you are hurt, when your heart is hurt, whether it's a romantic relationship or somebody said something or did something that's close to you that just really hurt. It's easy to think about, just overthink about what their intentions were, what that is. I grew up not being as very confrontational, and I don't love confrontation.
It's not surprising,
but I have learned to lean into that. With my relationships, where if somebody has said something, I will go and approach them and say, hey, it sounds funny because so often we're taught to just let things roll off our back, right? But I think that there's a difference between letting something roll off your back, and sometimes it is best to do that, and genuinely like, no, I actually want to maintain this relationship. I'm gonna like go talk to them about it. Romantic relationships are a little bit more difficult because sometimes you're the one that breaks up with somebody. And sometimes when you do that too, I wrote a song about it. It's called One Stone. I hit two hearts with one stone. That's kind of I was dating a girl, and at a certain point knew that it wasn't the right fit. It wasn't the right thing. But man, I wanted it to work out so bad. And so in the process of me breaking up with her, I broke my own heart too.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is just such a hard place to be. But I think that, so it's not like I could go back and say, hey, can we just talk through this? Even though, funny enough, I started writing a song. It's not finished yet, but about going back to the person that you broke up with and actually talk, say, hey, not with the intention of getting back together, but just saying, what happened?
Yeah.
Like what were your honest thoughts about this, or why did this not work out? or what could I have done better? But it's just so hard to do that because then it gets messy with with the emotions and stuff. But so I would say for me, how do I deal with heartbreak?
Some healthy isolation.
Healthy isolation. I would say also to allow yourself to feel it.
Yeah.
I know that that's probably the right thing to say, and I'm trying to do that. Sometimes I don't allow myself to feel it, feel those feelings. I'm an emotional human.
Yeah.
But I definitely hold a lot in, and then it ends up, I'm watching a movie and all of a sudden, some random thing somebody says, I'm like, oh, that's, and you start crying and.
You're like, I'm just watching Hook.
Yeah. Yeah. So, or a comedy or whatever. I'm like, that was beautiful.
Right.
That was a great joke. So yeah, I think there's a healthy amount of, I think crying is really healthy.
Yeah.
And you don't have to do it in front of everybody, but I do think it's a good thing to do. I think for men especially, it's good to have good ways of emoting.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that there's also pieces and like parts of your heart that just will never be healed. And I think that that's just, honestly, it's kind of beautiful.
Yeah.
Because man, there's definitely been some heartbreak, and I just don't think it's going to be. I think it's just part of it, right? It gives character. It gives life. It almost is the thing that gives life meaning. Life meaning is that somebody meant so much to you that it's left like an imprint.
Yeah.
On you, and so yeah, it's a great question. I'm going to keep unpacking it because I'm having all these thoughts of like, how do I truly healthily deal with heartbreak?
You know what I've done that I think in the moment it feels unavoidable, but I think it's probably pretty unhealthy is when I'm like actively trying to get over someone that I'm like still so in love with.
Yeah.
I will at night. I can kind of avoid it during the day, but at night I will like fantasize about how we magically get back together. You know? And it almost like reinforces a hope that shouldn't be there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And makes it kind of, I don't know, kind of extends the suffering a little bit.
Right. Have I ever done that? I definitely have created a life before even meeting somebody that I want to take out.
Sure. Well, that's a separate issue.
That's a different issue entirely. I don't know if I've ever done that, but I do think
it's my own unique coping mechanism.
It is. But that's the thing though, is I think maybe in a way it almost like, I'm sure you've had probably moments where you've done that and you're like, oh yeah, it like almost reinforces why you didn't continue with that relationship too. Like envisioning this beautiful life with them, but going, but there's this and this and this that just wouldn't work. So I could see benefits to it in both those ways.
Right. Yeah. So, I'll tell you one thing I did do that really started to help me was like this last girl. I was just in a malaise for a long time, and I don't think foolishly, but I was kind of just desperately, that's maybe all I had was desperation. I was just praying that she would come back, that she would change her mind, that she would see what we had, right?
Yeah.
And I finally realized this is the wrong prayer. Like, I want to pray that she is happy.
Yeah.
She's the person I care about. She's the person I want, but I don't want her to be with me if it doesn't make her happy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's brutal to say out loud. Because at the time, that's all I wanted, you
Right,
know?
right.
But I realized, and I don't think it was wrong that I was praying for that initially, for her to come back, but I realized it just wasn't the right prayer, you know?
Yeah.
And that was a load of cinder blocks on my chest, but it really helped me kind of move forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's it reminds me of this girl that I dated, and we were getting pretty serious and a long time ago. But it was the same situation of where you go, man, this just seems so perfect. Like, why can't it work out? It just, and then started dating this other guy, posting pictures about it with him, and
death.
you know that it is what it is. But
So you crawled into a hole, and
well, it was crazy because she looked so happy, and then there was this picture specifically that I saw that she had posted, and the way that she looked at him, and I said, she never looked at me like that.
Wow.
And for some reason that was so healing to me,
Yeah.
because I realized that I wasn't the thing that brought light in her eyes, and I want to be the person
Right.
that
Gosh,
my wife.
darn it.
I know.
Joseph?
I want that. I want a woman to look at me like that.
Yeah.
I want her to. And so for me, it was like so healing to see that, because I was like, she really loves him.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't look at me like that.
Yeah.
You know, so for me,
I don't think I could have handled that photo.
oh man. but I think it also just helped to realize that, and maybe that's part of the hope is seeing other people and how they look at their spouse,
Mm-hmm.
and you going, man, that is what I'm looking for, like a healthy relationship. You know that they have struggles, you know, but it's not with each other, you know. And there's things, you got to work out. You know, I've never been married, but just from friends and family members, I know there are things that are hard in marriage. I know things you got to figure out, but then you see the way that there's this picture, funny enough, pictures, but there's a picture of my grandma and grandpa at my dad's wedding.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know my grandpa, but my dad calls it the look. He always refers to it, and he's like, because they're just looking at each other, like they just know each other,
Mm-hmm.
and just the best friends. And it wasn't even like a romantic look. It was just that they knew each other.
Yeah.
And that to me was just so romantic. And my parents, I've seen them have that same look.
Yeah.
You know, I hear them often say, I get to hang out with my favorite person, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and I've watched them when my mom had surgery and my dad had surgery at the same time. I was up late one night when I was like a teenager, seeing them walk each other, like struggling up the stairs.
Yeah.
So I think in the same way that when babies are born, you feel hope, I think that there's, you know, it can be hard to see people that are happy sometimes.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think that's also what gives me hope, because
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I want something like that.
Yeah.
I will take that.
Yeah.
You know, I want a woman to look at me like that. And if she doesn't, then I don't know if
Right.
I want that.
Yeah.
And I want to look at my wife like that too. So, yeah, but yeah, that was actually kind of a paradigm shift for me, when I saw that picture, because that same mentality, like she really loves him.
Yeah.
And she never looked at me like that.
Right.
So I kind of knew that was also kind of a reaffirmation that she wasn't the right fit.
Yeah. That's such a beautiful thing. If someone was like, you know, what's something you're looking for in a partner, to just be like, I'm looking for the look.
Yeah.
You know, I'm looking for somebody that fully sees me and loves what they see.
Yeah.
You know,
Bro, there's a song that I am writing about that.
Yeah.
And I've sat down to write it several times, but I don't think I'm going to be able to write it until I actually find her.
Oh, interesting.
Because I just think even though I can recognize it,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I'll be able to finish it until I actually know what that feels like.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Do you feel like you've had that though with any girl?
I don't.
Really?
Which is crazy.
Yeah.
I have loved very deeply.
Mm-hmm.
Every woman I've dated has been just incredible, but I've yet to like have that, and maybe that's just the look. I don't know.
Yeah.
I am definitely romantic, but I like to like think about it like I'm a realistic romantic. Mm-hmm. Like for me, going out to the store with my wife is going to be awesome.
Yeah,
walking through Costco. Going to the beach and just sit and watching the sunset. Mm-hmm. I had this once. I just remember being like, man, I just want to sit on a couch and listen to an entire album of my favorite music with her and just sit in silence.
Yeah.
And I had that happen once, and it was awesome.
Yeah.
We just sat there and we just like had our arms around each other, and it was beautiful.
Yeah.
And we just sat there in silence, listened to great music, and it was just awesome. So like those little things to me are just, I look forward to those.
Yeah. One thing that I sort of want to strive to be is I want to be like an absolute expert in my wife. Yeah. I want to have like a PhD in my wife.
Yeah.
And so I want to constantly know that she's evolving all the time and changing. And so I got to be on the curve.
Right.
And so I want to know if there's a new song she likes, I want to hear it.
Yeah.
If there's a book she's read, I want to hear about it.
Right.
And I don't want any part of her life to be something I'm uninterested in.
Yeah. I love that. And I think I'm like sitting here going, man, Taylor, you deserve like your wife is going to be so special for you. She is going to be so lucky to have you. But I also, I love that idea because I think too, I think that allows for like anticipating needs too.
Mm-hmm.
Like to be able to know like what makes her tick,
Yeah.
And some of my favorite moments are even with my parents, who I feel like have one of the greatest love stories and greatest romantic, like it's so fun to still see them. You're eating dinner with them and one of them shares some story and my mom goes, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Like they've been married for over 50 years. And,
right.
So in a way it's almost like exciting every moment, at least I can anticipate, but even though you're going through life, there's still so much that you just are continually discovering about each other. And I just think that's awesome.
Yeah. So, I think any other approach is just wrong.
Yeah.
You know, because I think there's even a lot we don't know about ourselves.
Oh yeah.
So to assume like, oh, I know everything about my partner is kind of ridiculous.
Yeah.
This
reminds me of like some good friends who were like, well, when you do this, and you're like, what?
I don't do
that. And they're like, you do that all the time. What are you talking about? And then they'll like pull out a video of you doing it, and you're like, oh, I do that.
Yeah.
But I also think that's why, as far as my observations are concerned, why marriage is so, like, you grow so much in a marriage is because you're constantly they show you all the most beautiful parts that maybe you don't know, and also the ugly parts of yourself that you don't know.
Your blind spots.
Yeah, your blind spots. And even though, I don't know, does that make you nervous?
Showing my ugly parts?
Yeah. Or does that influence how you go about dating or relationships?
Oh gosh, that's a splendid little question.
Well,
I think
I was nervous you were going to ask me, so I was like, I'll turn it on.
Get this out of the way. I'm turning it right back. But I think it's a combination. I think it's really a beautiful opportunity. Here's the reality. I think for me, I want somebody that I can show them every last ugly part of me.
Yeah.
And there's a host of it.
Yeah.
But I don't feel that safe with hardly anyone.
Yeah.
And so I have to feel so safe with somebody that not only am I okay with showing them my ugly parts, but I actually want to.
Yeah.
I want to say, here it all is, you know, because I know it'll be received with love and with softness, and but you don't feel that with everybody.
Yeah.
And so that's the challenge. An additional challenge to dating is finding someone that you're like, you know what? I feel so comfortable and seen with them that I can tell them things that I'm deeply ashamed of.
Yeah.
I can tell them about horrific thoughts I've had,
Right.
you know, and not feel like anything less than love. And the thing is, we all have really weird, like, deplorable parts of us, even if they're really small and they don't manifest themselves a lot. We just have ugly sides of us.
Yeah.
You know, and to let someone in and be like, you know what, this is a kind of an ugly part of me, and it doesn't come out often,
Right.
and it's barely even there, but it's here and it's ugly. I think that's beautiful, because some of those you could almost get away with just hiding the rest of your life.
Oh, totally.
You know,
Totally.
and just keeping it to yourself and saying, well, she doesn't need to know this. She doesn't need to know I've thought this.
Right.
But to have that safety, like, that would feel unbelievable.
Well, and whether you do share it or not, just knowing, I think what you're saying is really poignant. It's like just knowing that person would be there if you did choose to share it.
Yeah.
Because you don't have to share everything.
Right.
And I actually would love to be somebody that wasn't an obligation or requirement.
Sure.
In fact, I have a good friend, our friend Kylie Shields. She often says, people get to share their own story whenever, with whomever, in whatever situation they want, right? But I have a similar feeling, though. And when I think about that, though, I also think, well, I hope I'm that kind of person too.
Yeah.
You know, that is just like whatever my wife lays before me, whatever she's done in her past or whatever, that I'd be able to go, okay,
Yeah.
like, I love you regardless. But I would say, it's definitely I think that's probably one of the most difficult things in any relationship, whether it's family or friends, being able to share those parts.
And it's hard
about you that you don't love about yourself.
And it's hard to compare, like, you might have that a little bit with maybe some of your brothers, right?
Sure.
But it's like you've been together for decades.
Right.
And so how do you get there quicker with someone you're dating?
Oh, yeah.
You know, that you've known for 6 months.
Right.
And it's different because you're intimate in different ways, and, you know, the romance changes how you communicate. But yeah, you don't have the luxury of having spent decades with somebody first.
Yeah. My sister-in-law, hopefully it's okay that I share this story, but she said she didn't, they were young when they got married, when she married my brother, and she said it was the strangest thing. Like, you get to know somebody, we're only dating for, 6 months, or a little bit more than that. And she said, but at a certain point, I realized that I had fallen head over heels in love with this guy that I knew almost nothing about.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, how does that happen?
Yeah.
And it's like such a huge leap of faith. And yet, obviously, they got married and have an incredible family, over 20 years now. And yeah, like, it really does take, like, I think about that and then I go, it's okay that you just have to find somebody that has that heart, and that you go into that with that heart as well towards her, and just hope that those two hearts kind of, find love with each other, and anyway, I would say that's one of the most difficult things for me is how do you share those ugly parts of yourself?
Yeah.
And I do think you don't have to, again, you don't have to spill it on the first date,
but yeah, I think with the right person, you'll find, oh, this won't be so hard actually. And like I said, certain things that maybe in the back of your head, you're like, I don't need to share this with anyone,
Totally.
But maybe it randomly comes up in a conversation 20 years later, but you feel so safe. You're like, now I'm ready to share.
Yeah.
Or now, like, I can tell you this, it's stupid, but you know.
Yeah. Well, and I'm also grateful, like 20 years ago, some of the things I think about, I'm like, yeah, that really was stupid.
Right.
I worried about it so much. And now I'm thinking like, oh, that's, you know, thankfully I don't care about it much. And if I don't care about it, my wife probably won't either.
Right.
So anyway.
Do you have a lyric that you've written that you're the most proud of?
Ooh.
Or that means the most to you?
Wow. It's funny, with all the songs I've written, I would say probably maybe not the specific lyric, but just the idea. When I broke up with this girl, I was just walking around at 2 a.m. just roaming around campus. Like, what have I done? What did I just do?
Mm-hmm.
Did I just ruin my life?
Yeah.
Did I,
Now, do you listen to music when you do this?
So, we didn't have. I didn't have. Back then, I wasn't able to. I didn't have anything to listen to.
Okay, it was a while
That'll
ago.
date me a little bit. But
You have a boom box.
I was walking around 2 a.m. with a boombox. No, but I remember just that feeling of I just broke my own heart by breaking up with her.
Mm.
And I was like, it's like I hit two birds with one stone, except for, you know, my process of mind was like, but they're hearts instead.
Yeah.
And I remember being like, I just hit two hearts with one stone. And then I was like, being a songwriter is wild sometimes, because literally you're in this depth of emotion, then you're like, wait a minute,
Like, sweet.
that could be a great song.
Yeah.
You know, which is crazy.
I'm going to do the same thing with writing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I
It's
remember
how you alchemize your pain.
Oh yeah. So I ended up, you know, going home and writing this idea down. And then through a series of events, the creation process, it actually went through probably 4 different iterations, writing with certain people and then moving into, it actually was a completely different style, this song, but to get to the heart of it, it really was, took a lot of massaging to get to those lyrics, the way that they now kind of have lived, or will live forever. And so I think it is the, what was it? Just, I hit 2 hearts with one stone. Just that idea.
Yeah, that's cool.
It's funny though, because, you know, I've written a lot of songs, and it's weird how when I sing them, I think about those lyrics, but I don't often think about them outside of that.
Oh, interesting.
But other people will remind me of them, or they'll say, "Oh man, that line in this song really hit me." And maybe it's because there's this. I'm always thinking of different ideas. Maybe those new ideas come into my brain, and I don't, you know, just don't think of them as often. But I would say there is a song that I wrote that is very cryptic, but that perfectly expressed. And I shouldn't say cryptic, a little bit more poetic. It's a song called "Broken Pieces," and the way that the song was produced and the way the lyrics put together, if somebody's listening to that, they'd be like, I don't know what he's talking about.
Yeah.
But the lyrics and the music together in the production just perfectly articulated the feelings that I was feeling at the time.
You're just feeling broken.
Broken. Yeah. Yeah, and there is no resolve. Mm-hmm. It was just, this is how, this is how I feel in this moment, and this is what it's going to stay.
Yeah.
So usually I like to put a little hope in there in my music, but I actually played it for somebody and they were like, "Are you okay?" I was like, "I'm good." I just had to get it out. I just had to get it out to the song. Right. So,
yeah.
But yeah, I would say there's probably, it's so crazy that is a song that I think about as probably my most personal, but I can't remember specific lines. But if I were to go back and say, "Oh yeah, there's some pretty personal stuff in there."
Yeah.
So yeah,
that's cool. Okay, just a couple questions. We'll wrap up.
Sure.
There's this quote I want to share with you and hear your thoughts.
Yeah.
It's by Salvador Dali.
You're going. I'm going straight to the.
I'm going to our favorite mustachioed man.
Yeah.
I wanted to share this a little bit earlier when we were kind of talking about just enjoying moments.
Yeah.
But he said, "I enjoy tremendously every single moment of my life because death all the time is very close watching me, and death might catch me. And every 5 minutes death doesn't catch me, I enjoy tremendously."
Man.
Yeah.
I want to get to that place.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm getting there. I'm learning to let go of things that just don't matter anymore. Mm-hmm. I'm learning to not, I know this is going to sound funny, but not put people on pedestals anymore, because I think it makes life a lot better. But the reason
you can take me off the pedestal.
Oh yeah. Except for you.
Okay.
I still keep you. No, because you just realize that we're all just humans, and sometimes when people, you kind of put people here and then they don't treat you very well, then it kind of, the expectation of people, So I've learned to do that, and the reason I bring that up in context of this or in relation to this quote is that I'm starting to see how much time I waste on things that just don't matter, and thought processes that don't matter,
or things out of your control,
and things out of my control. And I've realized that, in fact, a couple of buddies of mine, he asked, like, "Are you truly happy?" Mm-hmm. And what does happiness really look like for you? And immediately I think about, like, children all over the world who, like, live in poverty, but you go in there with, and they just, like, will get so excited to see you. I served a mission for my church in Brazil.
So did I. I didn't know that.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Maybe I can't remember if we talked about that.
What city were you in?
I was in Rio de Janeiro.
So was I.
What?
Yeah.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
In the north, or just regular mission?
It was north at the time.
Oh, wow. That's crazy. Yeah. I was just in just regular Rio mission. But I remember walking down these streets that were just like dirt streets with these kids who were in poverty, had probably experienced extremely traumatic events. And they're just, like, so happy to see it.
Yeah. Yeah.
and there is no, and I think part of that is that why I think most children are so happy most of the time is that they don't have expectations for you to be a certain way, or to have life a certain way.
Yeah.
And I think that,
and they don't fixate on the future or the past.
Yeah. They're just, like, happy to be in the moment. And even if one moment somebody's, hit them, another little kid hit him in the face or something, the next minute they're hugging them, and they just, like, forgive so easily. And there's so much that we can learn from kids and how they, like, move through life. But I think that's exactly right. They're not thinking about, they could care less about who you are.
Yeah.
They care more about how you treat them. And I think that, and they do. They take every moment, even when they're bored. Mm-hmm. They're still in the moment.
Yeah.
So I love that. I think
I
want to get there.
Yeah, I like the idea of going into a moment that you're like, okay, I'm about to do something that I don't love to do,
right?
And saying, I'm not going to just kind of get through this, but I'm gonna try to actually enjoy it tremendously.
Right.
Like he said,
Yeah.
which for certain things is a really big ask.
Right.
But if your attempt is, okay, I'm going to go do this thing that I normally find to be arduous or annoying or whatever, I'm going to actually try to enjoy it tremendously.
Yeah.
Like that could be a wild shift.
Yeah. Can I tell you one of the best ways in which I'm trying to do that?
Mm-hmm.
Just is almost like a pattern to go, okay, when I go to a concert, and I go to a lot of concerts, I love live music. When you first get it, when iPhones were out and everything, all of a sudden you were like, I can take videos of this performance and I can watch them later.
Yeah.
I don't know anybody that goes back and watches, footage, and yet I still have this like inclination to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to a Luca Fogale, who's one of my favorite artists, show last week, and just one of the best performers and communicators and such poignant thoughts, and his music's incredible. But I did take a couple of videos here and there, but there was this moment where I was like, dude, just like watch. Like you see those videos of artists who get up on stage and they're like, can you guys put your phone away for this song? Mm-hmm. And I love it when they do that, because it just forces you to be in the moment. But I don't want to be forced to be in the moment.
Yeah.
I want to be able to do that on my own terms. Mm-hmm. And so I've been trying to practice that more so in concerts, but we talk about it all the time, and it's almost like people are like, yeah. But really, I'm trying to get off my phone.
Yeah.
And truly like just put it away and be present and not have to document everything, because most of the time I don't go back to it anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
So anyway.
Yeah. I've been trying to, sometimes when I'm with friends and we're not really doing anything specific, it's so easy to be like, all right, well,
just grab it.
And sometimes when I catch myself doing that, I'll just put my phone on do not disturb or on airplane mode or something, because I'm like, I know I can't handle the distraction. Yeah. So there might be somebody really hot that's texting me, and I might miss it. So I need to just turn this off.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
But yeah, it's tough, especially when a lot of your world is promoting things digitally. Like you can check on stuff nonstop. Mm-hmm. You can see how a song's doing. You can see how a post is doing. And you can drive yourself crazy just always checking. Oh, yeah.
Well, this is not in a, what's it called? Shameless plug. But I literally just a couple of hours ago posted about a song that just came out with King Will Come. Oh, exciting. Yeah. All that stuff. I have found myself, before this interview, constantly checking like, did somebody else comment? Did somebody do something? And instead of just allowing it to kind of do its thing and be there,
right?
I don't know why there's this feeling that I have to check.
Yeah.
In 10 minutes, I'm going to see the same thing, or tomorrow I'm going to see the same thing. And it's almost like this we've created more validation than we ever actually needed in this world. Like, anyway.
Yeah. Bless these little minions.
But I'm also grateful for them.
Yeah, of course.
They've been a huge blessing.
Okay, last question is, what's your last question for me?
Oh, man.
I know, we don't know each other super well.
Yeah.
We have a lot of mutual friends. We've been in really, like, intense rooms together.
Yeah. It's a good way to do it.
And we've kind of been really good friends of friends, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
I've had your mac and cheese, which is phenomenal. And
that is one thing I will not deflect. Like I will not. Like,
you'll take all the glory,
because I love making something that, like, food that somebody enjoys. Like, that's the best.
Right.
Sorry.
That's funny. But yeah, we don't know each other very well. Any questions you might have? This is your shot.
Sheesh. There's quite a few that have come in my brain. It's like one of those questions where you're like, this is my last chance, as if.
No, but you can ask a
I'll
couple.
never see
You can
you.
ask a couple if you have
Oh, yeah.
curiosities. Yeah.
Yeah. Why did you initially want to start writing?
Mm.
What was the impetus for that?
That one was weird because I didn't realize what I was doing, but I was a voracious journaler as a kid.
Yeah.
I have journals, pretty serious, full journals since like first grade. And at the time, I didn't think about it as like writing. I thought about it as like documenting my life, I think. And I think I always loved, the idea of documenting my life and remembering things. And I think I've been pretty obsessed with memory. I always loved, like, more than my siblings and everything, I always loved, like, the photo albums my mom made when I was a kid. I always wanted to see, like, if she was getting photos developed, I wanted to see them. And I wanted to see how she placed them in the photo album book. And I just wanted a pristine, collected memory of things. And I don't know why, as a 7 or 8 year old, you think that way, you know? And then as I got older and more interested in reading and literature, I realized it was a beautiful way to express thoughts and feelings. And little did I realize I'd been doing that for all along, right?
Yeah.
But, you go back to my early journals, and it's way more me just almost listing the things that happened in my day.
Oh, that's what I used to do too, yeah.
But then as I got older, it started to be, I'm writing about my crushes in school, and I'm writing about some teacher I don't like, or I'm writing about how I love hanging out with my best friend. But then I started to realize writing can become a way for me to really see what I actually feel and actually think. Because I kind of have what I think, and then what I actually think. And the writing kind of helps bridge that gap, I think. So I didn't get serious about it. I mean, maybe I was serious ever since I was 7. But yeah, I started thinking, oh, well, maybe I can publish things, and maybe I can have people read this, when I was like in my mid-20s and started realizing, I think a lot of my influence was just certain authors I had picked up and realized, like, wow, I would love to do kind of what they're doing and to have, my story documented and out there. And then, like you said, when you were going through your breakup, one of your first thoughts when you're in the middle of mourning is, oh, this could be a great song,
Yeah.
I have those thoughts when I have unique emotional experiences. I'm like, I have to write about this.
Right.
Like, this is too special, and this is too relatable, and I want to write about it so other people will feel less alone, And so
I love that.
Yeah, I think I've sort of unbeknownst to myself have always been interested in it. Yeah.
Man, you talking just had me have other questions.
Hit me.
With because it's funny because I and maybe this is, I know we're trying to wrap up, but
we can go. I was just, as a courtesy, we can go.
But I've often thought about, I keep track of my favorite films and my favorite songs and my favorite albums.
Yeah.
Part of that is I want to show my kids, and I don't want to forget those meaningful, because those have, they shape so much of your thoughts and how you see the world and all those things. But I haven't been able to keep up as much as I've gotten older, because they start accumulating.
Yeah.
And like, then you got to go, I think I need to let go of trying to keep track of everything.
Mm-hmm.
And then my overactive brain is going, is there something to that for me? Because when you were talking about like trying to keep, you wanted to keep those memories intact.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've just thought, I've had this thought several times, like, and I don't even know where this, I don't even know if it's a question, but I have another question that I want to know about. But I don't know, like, do you think that there's something to that need to, and I'm talking to myself as well, because this is something I do, a need to like either hold on to that, or I don't even know what I'm asking.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I do what you do on a really extreme level. So I'll explain real quick.
Sure.
I'm a man of many, many lists, and I have become sort of obsessive about it. And so, like, I have an entire notebook that is just every restaurant I've ever been to in my entire life.
That's incredible.
Right? And I'm not as obsessed with which ones are my favorites.
Yeah.
I have kind of, random lists of, I think these are probably some of my favorites. But I'm just obsessed with, I want to document the whole thing.
Yeah.
And part of it is because it makes the whole experience more fun for me.
Yeah.
It makes, like, if we're going to someplace new to eat, I'm like, sick. I'm adding it to my list.
Yeah.
And it helps my memory.
Right.
It helps me remember when we stopped at some little cafe in Iowa on a road trip. I remember what it's called.
Yeah.
And so, to me, I think the purpose ultimately comes back to I'm trying desperately to find purpose in everything I'm doing, even if it's trivial. Yeah. Right? Because same thing. I have an entire notebook for every movie I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Every show I've ever seen. Every girl I've ever kissed.
Yeah.
Not as long of a list, but still lengthy.
Right.
And yeah, every town I've ever been to, and I have separate journals for all these, and it's just fun. Yeah. I just love it because, again, I'm going on a road trip, and I'm like, we're stopping for gas. Everyone's tired and arguing about who's driving next, and someone's taking too long in the bathroom, and I'm like, sweet, I'm going to figure out what the name of this town is.
Yeah.
And I'm writing it in my journal.
Yeah.
So to me, it adds purpose to things that maybe feel really trivial about life.
Yeah.
And, you could take it to an unhealthy,
totally.
Totally. And I could get obsessed with, like, I'm going to write down every outfit for every day, and I'm going to write down how often I go to the bathroom. And I could become compulsive about it. Yeah. But yeah, I just love it.
It's fascinating because I don't think I've ever talked to anybody that does a similar thing. Mm-hmm. I do that with concerts. Yeah. I have every concert that I've ever been to.
So do I.
And I have, that's awesome. I literally have a Pinterest board of my favorite albums of every year. Oh, cool. And that have come out, and I keep track of it as I listen to a new album, favorite films, all that stuff. And at a certain point, I literally was like, why am I doing this? Mm-hmm. It actually doesn't take that much time because I'm just like, as I go, I'll put it on a Pinterest board or, but I really do think I made this realization that so often I'm thinking about sharing it with my family. Yeah. I want them to know the life that I have lived up until that point. Yeah. And then I hope to continue to do that with my family when I do have them. Yeah, I think some of it maybe I've found, like, I wish I knew every restaurant my dad's ever been to. Yeah. That would be so cool. Yeah. And, like, when he passes away, like, to go sort of retrace some footsteps, Yeah. And obviously, like, I can ask him and he can tell me a lot of things, but yeah, I just like having it very accessible. Yeah. Well, and even, I guess in a way, it's kind of like the story of our lives in a way, like, they're the people, but I even write down, like, who I went to the concert with and, who who open up for him. And, you know, I'm sure that somebody's going to go, you've seen James Taylor how many times in concert, you know, or
right.
you've seen Jacob Collier so many times, you know. But because maybe it's a way that I'm literally processing this as we're talking. But I'm like, maybe it's a way for people to get to know me a little bit.
Yeah.
If I were to die today, what would my life consist of? And not that it's only concerts and films, and you know, those are just, a lot of those are just entertainment. But at the same time, in a way, they do tell a little bit more of the story about who we are and where I've lived and all those things. So anyway,
but I would argue that because you do that with concerts, it makes it way more enjoyable for you.
Oh yeah,
and you look forward to it more.
Yeah,
and a part of you is like, I get to add this to my little document.
Oh yeah,
you know.
Yeah, you're right. I think it does add to just the excitement of life, and that's cool. Yeah, I'd never met anybody that had lists like that.
Yeah.
Actually, I met one girl that had lists of her favorite movies. But okay, I have one more question. What are the words that you're going to say to the woman when you, like, the moment that you realize that she is yours and you are hers?
That's tough, because sometimes you think you're in that moment and she's not, or you are for a minute and someone changes their mind. You know, I've had that. You know, I've thought I've been in that moment before. Yeah. And so sometimes there's some trepidation, because you're like, well, is this a false start? You know? Yeah. But I do think there will come a time where I'm, you know, absolutely certain, and the rest is almost formality. You know, you're like, you've kind of decided we're going to get married and we're crazy about each other. Right. Oh man.
I asked that not knowing myself.
Sure.
But as you were talking, I was like, man, that'll be a cool thing to be able to know about Taylor. I
think I would just tell her, and you know, I might not actually tell her this, but I think what I'd want her to know is that I've gone through hell to get to you. You know, and if I thought I had to go through that hell again to get to you, I would do it. Yeah. You know? And so the rest is gravy. You know? Like, I don't care what we go through. Yeah. I don't care if we, like, there's things that would break my heart along the way, but if we can't have kids, I don't care, because I'm with you and we'll adopt kids. You know? If we lose our jobs or we lose our home, I don't care, because I'm with you. And I've been through freaking hell to get here. Right. And so, the rest is gravy. And I really believe that I'll feel that way.
That's cool.
Yeah.
It's funny. I had a similar thought. Just like, man, I've waited so long for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a pretty cool thought.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, Joseph, thanks so much for coming out, bud.
Oh, thanks for having me, man.
This was awesome. It's cool. Awesome. It's cool to realize sort of how much we have in common.
Oh yeah.
You know.
When you were talking about those photo albums, I was like, God, that was my whole childhood.
Right.
Like yearbooks, I used to go through all my parents' yearbooks, and I don't know.
I do want to give you a tiny honey roast.
Sure.
A tiny.
I don't even know what that is.
A honey roast is.
I mean, I love.
You know when it's someone's birthday and everyone goes around and says something they love about them.
Oh yeah. Right. Yeah.
I call it a honey roast.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
But there's something I really love about you that I noticed, and it's funny. I was listening to your episode with Kylie, our friend Kylie.
Yeah.
And I realized, I was like, oh, this is what I love about Joseph, even though I don't know him very well. Yeah. I feel like you're such an egoless person. I feel like I can be in your orbit, and no matter what happens, I can know I'm not going to feel any ego.
Hmm.
There's a sense of deep humility, and that's really rare in someone that is a deeply talented person like yourself. You know, you have a lot of things you really excel at, and of course, I think when I say that, the first thing that probably goes through your mind is, well, there's a lot of things I suck at, or there's a lot of things that I don't do well.
Yeah.
But bottom line is, there's things that you're really gifted at, but yeah, you're incredibly approachable and incredibly sort of void of ego.
Oh man, thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, of course, man.
In a former life, I would have gone,
Right.
don't look at me. No, but I've learned how to say thank you and to receive.
Yeah.
I think that's a good thing. So,
Yeah.
anyway, thank you, man.
Yeah,
I
of course,
appreciate
dude.
it. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Can I honey roast you?
Please.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it goes without, well, maybe it doesn't go without saying.
It goes with saying.
I think from the moment I met you
Mm-hmm.
and the way that I've seen you interact with other people, you have an ease and a way of moving in crowds and with people that is so, it's like because you're able to be vulnerable, and maybe you don't feel this way,
Mm-hmm.
but because you're able to be vulnerable, you allow other people to do the same. And in essence, create a space where people can really just be themselves.
Mm.
And, I'd be lying if I said that coming into this, I just get nervous on, whenever there's cameras around.
Yeah.
But to be able to, I wasn't nervous because I know that about you.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I know that I have no idea what's going to happen in this conversation,
Mm-hmm.
but I know that Taylor is going to I know that you're going to be vulnerable, and but I also don't feel like he's going to expect me to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
But I know that he's going to allow me to be that if that happens.
Yeah,
You know, and I mean, I guess in a lot of ways, vulnerability isn't just like sharing your whole heart or anything.
Yeah.
It's just, I think, allowing people to just kind of move the way that they move.
Yeah.
And so I've noticed that even in big crowds, you show up and you allow everybody to just be at peace or kind of, you just allow people to be themselves.
Oh, thanks, man.
And it's because you are you, as far as my what I've seen is you just are yourself and authentic and vulnerable. So thanks for making me feel comfortable, man.
Oh, thanks,
Appreciate
man.
it.
Yeah, that's something that I really love to hear, because that's kind of my goal.
Yeah.
I just want people to come as they are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say, because I don't feel that way about myself at all. I'd be like, bro. One thing I do love to do, I really do love to hype people up.
Mm-hmm.
So so anyway.
Yeah.
I mean this genuinely. I appreciate how you move throughout this world.
Thanks,
so.
man. That's really, really cool thing to say. Well, sweet. We did it.
We did it, man.
Congrats on your new song that came out today.
Thank you. Well, I want to mention it's a King Will Come song.
Yeah.
And I'm just grateful it's funny, Bree Ray, who's in the group as well. We've known each other for a long time. We've always talked about singing, together. And so we get to kind of be featured artists on this song with King Will Come. I mean, we're all part of the group.
Yeah.
But it's kind of
real
fun
quick. Let me explain.
Sure.
I was talking to Spencer about this,
Yeah.
and I think people that aren't in the music world will benefit from understanding this, because I didn't understand it.
Sure.
I was like, dude, help me understand why a song will say by King Will Come and Ashley Hess and so. I'm like, they're in the band.
Yeah.
Why does it say King Will Come and so? And he's like, oh, it's because like maybe they were the main songwriters or lead vocals or whatever, but it's because then it shows up on their page too.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like doing a collaborative post.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, King Will Come, I mean, it's funny because as you know, like you've been to so many different events and performances and very, like you said, very intimate, like cool experiences where, we were sharing some really deep things in our lives. But we very much like feel like a family. We are. I mean, I consider everybody in the group my brothers and sisters, and but we are a collective of individual artists that came together because we wanted to create music that we call it relationship music, relationship with God, with self, and with others. And so we just wanted to create a place with each other where, and I'm a firm believer in this, but when people are being themselves, when they're like operating to their fullest capacity and their gifts, it just makes everything better. And so it's a place where I feel like everybody can just be themselves, and so we are individual artists that have come together to create this other music. And so in a way it's almost like a way that we get to share in each other's wins, which is awesome. Which is like one of my favorite things is like just seeing people succeed that you care about.
It's really cool. Do you have any other projects that you're excited about that we should look forward to? Do you have any solo stuff you're working on?
I am currently writing for my next solo project. I've written a couple of songs, have done some co-writes, but King Will Come has been a huge major part of that. I'm working on a couple of films.
Cool.
It's funny, the film world there's so much before the actual movie comes out, just years and years of developing, and then so those may not be out for quite a while. But we do. The King Will Come does have a free interfaith event on Monday, April 14th, at the new Beast Stadium in Daybreak in Utah. If anybody is in the Utah area and wants to experience that, we've got that. And then
if they want to come hear your pipes,
well, there's
a lot of other pipes.
I'm excited for people to hear all the different singers in the group, and the songwriting is so fun too. And just it's going to be interfaith, so you'll kind of experience maybe some worship style that you may not be familiar with, but I always think it's good to experience new ways of connecting with people. But then we also have an upcoming album called Conversations with God that we're excited about, and that should be releasing in the next couple of weeks as well.
Sweet,
hopefully
dude.
I can say that. But we're really excited about everything that's coming out.
That's awesome.
So
that's exciting. And are you working on a solo album, or are you just kind of putting out songs when they come?
I love what an album is. For me, it's like a book. You've got different chapters. Every song is a chapter. But I have been feeling recently like if I have a song that I want to release, record it and get it out there. And, I've also learned through my first album, don't wait for things that should be out there. Before they're perfect or whatever. Put it out there. I learned a lot. I'm trying to reframe that, but I learned a lot from realizing how much time I could have been releasing music. And any young artists out there, just get it out. Put your music out there.
Totally.
It's no time like the present. So
okay, sweet. Well, we'll put your your links and stuff in the show notes so people can find you.
Cool.
But
that's great.
Yeah, you're the man, Joseph.
You're the man.
Okay.
So good to talk to you finally, man.
Yeah,
I mean, in this capacity.
Sure.
Anyway.
Okay, awesome, man.